So this video is on our third milestone on the journey of perpetual freedom in America, and it's called the Constitution, Our Living Governing Document. Here is a facsimile of the opening page of the actual Constitution. So some background. It was written by James Madison, among other people. He sort of headed the committee and wrote a lot of it himself at the Constitutional Convention, which was called to replace the Articles of Confederation. And it was printed and read in everyday almanacs and newspapers throughout the colonies. Just so try to imagine that you are buying a newspaper in 1788 and you are reading your newspaper, and in it there's a copy of the Constitution, and you're being asked to read it and talk to your fellow people to help your state decide if you want to ratify it or not. And you're being asked as a citizen to go, yeah, this is a great governing document, and it's better than the one we have, or it's not good enough to replace the one we have. You actually, like the citizenry of the country read this document and had discussions about it to decide if it should be the governing document for their nation. And this actually happened. So just try to imagine yourself doing that. And just to toss out there, it's meant to be a living document. It's meant to be amendable. The citizenry were assumed to understand what it said and how it worked. And so just because it's 240 years later or whatever, that doesn't mean we can give it a pass and just not know anything about it or care about it. So it's ratified in 1789. And as we said, it replaces the Articles of Confederation as the governing document of the country. So values versus reality. Remember, the founders and the citizens at the time in general were skeptical of power concentrated in one person or in a small group of people because, they're breaking free of a monarchy and an aristocracy. So they gave the Articles of Confederation a try. They made a go at having a sort of a bottom-up organized governing structure with very, very weak executive powers, and it didn't work. So here's a case of the values of people conflicting with the reality they found, and them needing to compromise on their values to try to get the best practical solution. So there's this great element of compromise here. I've got my values. I would like the world to function this way, but it doesn't function this way. So let's take another crack. I will compromise in order to try to get a working solution that will actually function. And that's a pretty sophisticated way to approach dealing with the world. So what are the goals of the Constitution as expressed in the Preamble? This is real famous. You're going to need to commit this to memory. You should know this. This is wondrous writing. This is how it goes. We, the people of the United States. So here's number one: in order to form a more perfect union. Establish justice. That's number two. Number three, ensure domestic tranquility. 4, provide for the common defense. 5, promote the general welfare. And 6, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. To ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So if you think about it, this is what the governing document is supposed to do, because we could have a more or less perfect union. We could have a just or unjust society. We could have domestic tranquility or not. We could have a strong common defense or a weak one and be at risk of getting taken over. We could promote the general welfare, or we could each just promote our own selfish welfare, and we could either secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves, and our children and their children, or we could fail to do so and we could live without those blessings. So there's a lot at stake. Just really want you to understand that. There's a lot at stake in this document and people's understanding of and allegiance to the document. This is what it means to be an American, is to understand and have an allegiance to this document. And that's another thing that makes America unique. Until now, how are you a Frenchman? Well, you have 20 generations of your ancestors born in France. That's how you're a Frenchman. But an American can just show up from somewhere else. And if you believe this, if you understand the Constitution and affirm it and live it, you are an American. And it doesn't matter where you came from or what your religion is or what your race is. That's the idea. So, what is actually achieved by the Constitution? It establishes the rule of law, and that's big. Again, what is that issue? That means they put down laws and they have checks and balances to try to make sure that everybody has to live by those laws, that those laws aren't put there by some people for other people to have to obey, but that everybody obeys the laws and that nobody is above the law and that the laws are written and not subject to the whims of a dictator. It establishes a stronger federal system to coordinate the states, right? We talked about that was a goal. It has an executive branch, right? The Articles of Confederation didn't, as just an example. It allows there to be taxation, right? Where you could actually have a federal way of, a national way of generating revenue, and on and on. In many ways, it does that. It establishes separation of powers with checks and balances. So it tries to solve the problem of having an executive branch by also having other branches and having the checks and balances. So the way that the articles tried to avoid too much concentrated power was just to have a Congress, not even to have an executive branch. Well, this is more sophisticated and complex here in the Constitution because they do have an executive branch, so they run a risk of concentrated power. But on the other hand, there's checks and balances with the judicial branch and the Congress to limit what the executive can do. It establishes parameters for amending the Constitution. It's an ongoing document. It's very clear how you would change the document as the country changed or as people realized maybe there were some mistakes or as the world changed or all the above. It establishes a complex republic rather than a simpler democracy. So it's not just people voting what they think on any given law. You actually elect people who then make the laws. In real democracies, the people make the laws, and there are some of those, and even in Switzerland today, to some degree, there's direct democracy. But a republic, you elect people who then make the laws and stand in for you as your representatives. It establishes a Bill of Rights to guarantee individual rights. That's another way that they leverage the hope that you could have an executive branch without running a huge risk of that becoming a tyranny, because there are individual rights that get guaranteed that the executive can't just flout. So now I want you to think for a second. Let's just say the Constitution's the best thing ever written. It's just an incredible governing document and is about as good as you can do. That might be false, but let's just for now just assume that it is. Here's the question: can any governing document be strong enough to work if a critical mass of citizens do not try to live by it, but instead try to undermine it? Do you see the issue here? Can a document be good enough to overcome people's ignorance of the document, disdain for the document, lack of concern for the document, and what it stands for. So can you have a critical mass of Americans who don't care to live by the Constitution and look for ways to undermine it, to line their own pockets or gain power over others at everybody else's expense? Even though the Constitution's goal is to try to keep that from happening, is it possible for a document to be good enough where the people can be ignorant of the document and don't really have a lot of respect for it, and it still works? So I might have you right about that, and we'll talk about that. So let's revisit Federalist 1 for a second. How does the Constitution help us govern ourselves by reason and choice rather than by accident and force? Well, the worry is that if we don't get this right and the colonies can't come together as a nation, they can't exist. They're too small to actually compete against nations. England will come back and gobble them up. France will gobble them up. Spain will somebody will gobble them up. So they have to be able to come together. Otherwise, it'll be back to accident and force. We will have accidentally botched it, and then a bigger force will come clean us up. So we're having to choose how to govern ourselves rightly so that we can actually do all the things that the preamble says, to have a more perfect union, to protect liberty and have domestic tranquility and all that. If we get it right, then we get those goods. And if we don't get it right, we don't get those goods. If we discipline ourselves to live by the document, we get those goods. And if we don't, we don't. And so this is a really important document. This document really gets at that fundamental issue we started with at the beginning. This is to help us govern ourselves by reason and choice. We're reasoning through the making of the document, and we're choosing to have it as our governing document and to live by it so that we're not subject to accident and force. That's the idea. So what is the Constitution's place on the perpetual journey of American freedom? Well, Americans will not be subject to the tyranny of the majority, but will be unified enough to compete on the global stage. That's what this does for us. It gets us, we hope, the ability to have an executive branch that allows us to function as a real country on the global stage, but it also limits the power of that small group of people enough to make sure that we don't just become subject to another neo-monarchy. So takeaways: you should be able to say what the Constitution says about the founders' willingness to compromise. You should recall the preamble from memory. You're going to need to memorize that. You should be able to discuss the achievements of the Constitution from memory. You should have those committed to memory. You should be able to discuss the significance that was printed and read in everyday newspapers. Why does that matter? And discuss how it helps govern by reflection and choice instead of accident and force, and understand its place on the perpetual journey of American freedom.